Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of colors, checking out a band that is very interestingly named called the Silver Mount Zion Memorial Orchestra. And that is a bit of a mouthful. The song is called Could Have Moved Mountains. And I'm really interested in a lot of things. Let's dive into this though and see what the Silver Mount Zion Memorial Orchestra has in store for us. A very quiet intro. Yeah, so just because of the very quiet sound on the right, I think we're in 6. This might be one of the most unsettling intros I've heard on the channel yet. I think it's actually in 3. We never had a strong 6 subdivision, but I do feel quarter notes if you count them by 3 and what the guitar was doing there on the left in the previous section. Yeah, it's really interesting how the somber melody is recontextualized with this soaring violin line. And I love how this violin section is washing over me from one side to the other and filling the space rather than sitting just off to what felt like center left. That chord right there is one that really drives home this sort of uplifting element against the darkness underneath. Ooh. It's interesting this more somber electric guitar part was not present in the last minute or so. It was almost like the positivity had defeated uh, this sort of sorrowful element. Oh, interesting way to bring that in. That felt weird. I love the levity of this section. What? I had ideas in my mind about what this could have been. And kind of the journey it took me on. I was getting ready to talk to you guys about my experience with this, and man, that was just a massive wrench thrown into the plan. What in the world? What was up at the end? What does it mean? Why was it there? I have a lot of questions. Maybe they'll get answered when we dive into the lyrics, because I didn't pick up almost anything that was said in the beginning, especially since there were two vocals. They were very quiet, so I had a hard time like honing in on one. And when I was trying to listen to what one was saying, I was completely missing the other one. So, yeah, there's definitely some stuff there I need to check into, and hopefully that might open my eyes a bit. But let's talk about the song. There's only one thing going on in here, right? There's micro movements, micro changes, but to me it's all a deal of layering. This is a single section song where, you know what, this we can actually relate this a little bit to Gautier's track Heart's a Mess from last week, in that the song never moves from this one section, but we can create the perception of new ideas or new sections based on what layers we add to it. The foundational stuff doesn't really change from start to finish. We just add on different ideas on top of it and remove some of the foundational ideas to create different vibes or feelings which give the impression of new sections without actually, as far as I see it, changing the core identity of this section. We never really move to a B section. We stay in the A the entire time. And it's sort of a modular approach to songwriting, storytelling through music even, where we keep this foundational idea and maybe we add this line on top of it and this line and this line. And what if we remove that first one we did and put in a fourth line? And we have basically these 5, 6, 7 components we can put on top of it to layer, and we can create different vibes and feelings with different combinations of layers. And I'm pretty sure that's what's happening here. We do remove some of the foundational stuff. We have that electric guitar that's over on the left with the reverb or the warble, whatever effect that is. We have what is it? It's a cello, isn't it? On the right side. And then we also have this droning sound. I don't know what it was. It was providing the 6 core beats for most of the song. I feel it wasn't present in the latter half once we started introducing more instruments. But those are sort of the three main elements of the song. And I believe, well, you know what, the electric guitar at least had two ideas. They were very similar, and you could probably say one is a variation of the other, rather than two distinct parts. So I think that's what we're going to stick with, is a variation, so that it sticks with this idea of building an entire song on a single concept. I don't think the cello was emphasizing beat one of every bar for pretty much the entire song. That was its job for 11 minutes. 11 minutes on the dot. Wow. Yeah. That was its job for 11 minutes. And like I said, there was the other instrument that was like way panned right, kind of distant. Just laying down these 6 beats, keeping a rhythmic structure, despite not being a rhythmic instrument. It had a pitch to it, and it sounded probably, to me, it's kind of a synthesizer, but I don't know if they have a synthesizer, so it might have just been, I don't know, just kind of keeping this rhythm though. And then we just add things on top of this. We add vocals, we add violins, we add sweeping string sections, we add extra guitar melodies, and we can continuously add all these different parts, and like I said, in different combinations to create different vibes. And I think that it's an interesting way to go about composing something. Not just because it's different than the norm, which is to have multiple sections in a song, but also because it really demands a bit of extra attention from the listener. Not just because you're playing a single section for the whole song, but also the way they go about doing it. This song does not have a big tempo or an upbeat tempo to it. It does not have a driving percussion section. It doesn't really have anything that's going to have people sticking along sort of automatically or mindlessly, might be another way of doing it, or of saying it, that just having something catchy for people to latch onto. You've ever listened to a song and you're like, listen to it over and over and over and over, and you're like, I don't know why I keep listening to it, but we're on our 24th listen. We're like an hour in just listening to this one song. And it's not that it's keeping you interested for any reason other than something catchy about it. Gets stuck in your head, you just gotta listen to it, right? And that's kind of what I am saying, like, this is not doing. Like, there's nothing catchy here that would keep you sticking around to it despite the repetition. It is a song that requests your attention, and it requests you to be present in the vibes that it's creating. It is not rhythmically interesting. It is not catchy. There is not a strong melody hook that's going to keep you listening. You really have to engage with it. So I think that's another reason to me why I think it's interesting they went for this single section idea, because I don't believe the single section itself has many properties to it that makes it a strong candidate to be the only part of a song. So they are really demanding that the listener be engaged with and understand what's going on here. And that's not to say that that's a poor decision to make. Music can be made for all sorts of different reasons, and this one seems to be made for the artistic purpose of it, not for any sort of fame chasing. This is not going to be a top 40 song. They know that, and I think most people who listen to it know it. So it would not be fair to judge it by saying that it's not catchy. But I do think, like I said, it's an interesting thing. It's going to alienate listeners. I don't know many people who are going to start listening to this and go all the way through with it. At least personally, I don't know many people that would. Um, so Yeah, to me, it's always interesting when bands or groups specifically do that. And I think that might be something, I don't know. It says Memorial Orchestra, right? So is this an orchestra? I don't know the exact definition of an orchestra. I don't know if it requires certain families to be present. I hear an electric guitar and a little bit of a string section. I hear a violin and a cello. There's something off to the side. There's some vocalists. But at most, I hear maybe eight, nine performers tops. And honestly, some of these performers could be doing double duty. We don't necessarily need nine performers just because there's nine voices here, because a lot of the time the voices aren't working together, aren't playing together. So, anyways, where I was going with this though, I don't know if this is an orchestra, it might just be the name of the group, but it does give me some classical vibes, classical prog rock a little bit as well, but definitely like avant-garde 20th century experimental classical is where my mindset was for this entire song. It really only is that distorted electric guitar sound that kind of puts me into that prog rock mindset. But it makes me real interested, one, to dive into this group and see what's going on. But two, also to look them up and kind of see what their personnel lists are sometimes put into just, nope, of course not. Why would they do that the time that I really need it? Um, so yeah, I do have some questions about the personnel list, the instruments utilized, and if this is just a band. Oh, see, this is also interesting because their topic page is Silver Mount Zion, but on their record label page, they're called the Silver Mount Zion Memorial Orchestra. More questions have been arisen. Um, so yeah, let's dive into some of the stuff that's influencing the emotions here, because I think this is not a song. This is an experience, right? So we have an opening that, like I said, is probably one of the most unsettling openings I've heard on the channel yet. It is very subtle, slow moving, has quite a bit of uneasiness in it, lots of tension. And it takes like 2 minutes before we really get to the meat of anything. They play with their volume dynamics a lot, and I absolutely adore that. One thing I've talked about a lot on this channel is that most of the music we check out has the full volume and then maybe something that's quieter that's really not quieter but sounds quieter. Sometimes a band will have a quieter section and that's it. We have volume A, we have volume B. Which one are we applying? And to hear a band start from basically nothing and build the volume up and have this almost 11-minute swell. Well, I guess it's more like a 9-minute swell because our peak was close to the end but not at the end. So they certainly play with volume dynamics quite a lot. And I love that, just to hear these nuanced volumes. And it's just not just an overall thing, too. You can listen to the instruments themselves, especially the cello, and find minute volume differences all throughout the performance. Some notes are going to be at a fortissimo, some notes are going to be at a pianissimo. There's just this human element to how the cello hits each of the notes that it needs to. Sometimes there's extra attack on it, which gives it a little bit of extra volume. Sometimes there's a little less. And there's just this really nice ebb and flow. Normally this is the shape I make for melodic flow, but the volume flow on the cello kind of works that same way here, where we have peaks and valleys of volume in the cello notes, and I love the attention to detail there. It's a very classical or jazz thing to do. It's not really something rock oriented, which again kind of leans me into this classical mindset when I was listening to this track. I don't want to say rock never utilizes volume dynamics, but when they do, it's usually done in a different way than classical. And I think this one leans more towards a classical style of composition as far as volume dynamics are related to. Um, so we have this nice rising up. It's kind of eerie, kind of creepy. There's just a lot of dissonance and tension in the very minimal instrumentation we have right here, which I think was our foundation. We have our cello, we have the note-based metronome over there on the right side, and I don't remember if the guitar had come in yet. If it did, it was in its original form, not the variation that I spoke of. And like I said, about 2 minutes in, we have this nice swell into this first area. I guess we can break these up into sections, even though it is a single section track. Where the vocals though, right? And I don't know if you can call them vocals per se. It's spoken word, right? But they're very quiet. They're right there in my ear. And the one on the right is a bit louder, and the one on the left is whispering stuff into my ear. And it is just very unnerving, especially with the way the production plays into it, because we don't just have centered vocals. They're not just panned. They feel like they're behind me. They feel like they're right over my shoulders. And I don't like it. But then on top of that, I don't know what they were saying, but the few words I picked up did not seem like things people would normally say. They had a bit of a creepy vibe to them. And I can't wait to dive into the lyrics because I'm hoping I just misheard some of this stuff. But yeah, I was just like, why would somebody say something like that? Why would you whisper that in my ear? And I did not like this opening at all. It really made me feel uncomfortable. And I'd wager it's probably intentional. I mean, you don't normally place your vocalists who are whispering behind somebody unless you want it to feel creepy, unless you want it to feel like you're invading someone's personal space, and you don't pair that with unnerving and uh uh what is that word? Anyways, unnerving melodic ideas with a lot of dissonance in them, or like not a lot of dissonance, more of like edging on the idea of dissonance, right? And really playing around with some keys that, well, not keys, chords that are kind of a bit more unsettling, right? Very, very unnerving element. You don't pair that with those whispers unless you're trying to make the listener feel uncomfortable. At least I wouldn't. Maybe they did, and they didn't know it would make the listen. They didn't know it would make me uncomfortable. It wasn't their intention. I suppose that's a possibility. It is not. I don't see that as a possibility, right? I don't know how anyone could listen to this and be like, "Yeah, this is fine. This is my normal everyday life. This is very comfortable for me." I don't know. Anyway, so we move from this and we begin to bring in the guitar in its primary element, which I think is really this I don't want to say sorrowful, but it's heavy, it's downtrodden, it's a bit eerie, but mostly just kind of not happy. Right? I don't want to say sad because I don't think sorrow is a part of it. It didn't make me feel sad, but it definitely made me feel unwelcome. It made me feel incomplete. I think incomplete might be a really good word for a lot of this, actually. And I think this was the first instance where the song really began to open up and dig into what it wanted to tell. Because not too long after this, we got the violin part that was center left, and it was this huge soaring melody line, and it was sitting on top of all this this incompletion, this imperfection that's kind of sitting on the bottom, and we kind of sit in this vibe for a little bit. I think the violin comes out. We return to just the foundation for a little bit. The violin comes back though, and it sweeps. It starts center left like it did, and it sweeps across to the right side and just fills the space with this powerful soaring melody. And it wasn't too long after this that distorted guitar left, cut out entirely. I don't even remember if the cello was still here. We had some other ideas introduced to support this uplifting element in the violin. And I really thought they were going to end the song on this high note. The brightness had beaten the imperfection, the lack of feeling complete, and we were just going to finish out the song on this high note. And it doesn't happen that way. The electric guitar comes back and begins to drown out the violin, and the violin ends up fading out, and you kind of return back to this solemn element. And then we get sort of a variation on this, where we have the same instrumentation of the cello and the guitar, but it's not, it feels more complete, it feels more stable. It's not perfect by any means, but it's a lot better, or it's a lot closer to harmonizing with palatable, more major chord ideas than what we heard at the beginning. And it's paired with these children talking at what sounds like a party, and then the instrumentation fades out, and we get to hear these kids. And well, what? I'm still kind of confused about that, but I do want to go back over this journey. So we have uh nothing that fades into something that is a bit awkward and uncomfortable and kind of creeping. And then we kind of move from that into bright and uplifting and powerful, combating with what we just heard. That brightness fading, coming back and getting rid of the darkness, and then the darkness coming back and taking over again, but less eerie and less creepy. And I think I want to stop using the word creepy because that kind of implies a horror element, and I don't. That's not. It is unsettling, right? The opening section is unsettling, but I don't think it's creepy unsettling. It's more of confusion unsettling. Like if you've ever had a dream and like most of it seems like it's bound in reality, but then there's a couple of things that just are out of place. People talking backwards or something, and you can't quite put your finger on it, but you know that this is not reality. And it's kind of starting to give you anxiety. That's the kind of feeling that I'm going here when I say that it's unnerving. Um, it's that it's a confusion kind of unnerving, a confusion kind of fear, not like you're being stalked by some beast or something like that. No, it's like not understanding what's going on. And to me, it kind of tells the story condensed down to 11 minutes of life, right? You come from nothing, you fade in, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of fear, and eventually, though, this breaks away into some brightness, and the brightness can be short lived. It can also be contrasting with some difficulties in life. This could be the teenage 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever in your life that you finally realize that you're starting to get somewhere, but you still have all this baggage of growing up and trying to figure out your place in the world, and they kind of wrestle with each other. And by the end, you find this interesting medium that assuming that you get to live a full life. You're not, your life isn't cut short for whatever reason, and hopefully you can come to terms with your death. I mean, it's coming or whatever, and you've reached that age when you're like, okay, maybe your health is starting to fade, and you kind of come to terms with it. It's bittersweet, right? And that's kind of the ending vibe I get. It's not confusing, but it's not happy, but there is a little bit of completion to it. It's not incomplete, it's not unstable, there's not dissonance to it. It's just it's a lot of stuff that we get at the end. And that was the journey that I felt going through this song. And then they played children talking at a birthday party. And I was just lost. I have no idea how to reconcile that with the journey that the song took me on and the emotions that I went through listening to it. Interestingly, the song's also called Could Have Moved Mountains, which means, at least to me, that there was an opportunity to make waves, to do something major, and that opportunity has passed. Kind of ties into the idea of hearing somebody or having music portray a full life from birth to death, and kind of having those bittersweet moments in the middle. And also, I mean, that works with the ending too, because like I said, the ending was bittersweet, right? There's this acceptance of death, but also, very few people want to move on to the next, whatever comes next. And but the bittersweet could also be regret of not having done something in the past, maybe something that would have moved mountains. You had an opportunity to do something great and chose something else instead. I don't know. I'm going to dive into the little bit of lyrics there at the beginning, the spoken word, and come back and see if I can't piece something together about that final moment with the kids. I mean, it's not even necessarily a party. It just kind of feels partyish to me for whatever reason. It's the vibe I got, but I mean, it could also have just been a bunch of kids in a living room. A family with three kids, or having, a kid with friends over and just being loud that way. It doesn't have to be a party, just a group of kids can get loud. um, so yeah, let me dive into this real quick, and we'll see what's going on. I think this is one of those situations where I would have been better not reading the lyrics. There are these songs. I think this is number two or number three, where the lyrics are just wow. And like I'll come away from the song with one experience, and I'll check out these lyrics and I'll be like, one, that's not what I got from the song, and two, I really wish I hadn't have seen these words with my eyes. So, we had the two voices, and I thought that they were lining up with things, and the way that I'm reading this, they're they kind of alternate in the song, right? Sometimes they overlap, but mostly they alternate. And they're telling two different things. Like if I read just what the right side is saying, it's a complete story. And if I read just what the left side is saying, it's a complete story. If I read them alternating the way that they appear in the song, it makes no sense. So I think it's two completely different ideas just being done at the same time. So we're gonna go with the brighter of the two stories. And it's not even that bright. He says the community is sick and blind. It's colder than Poland, and the sun is shining here. We're tangled in each other's ruined affairs. Half of us are faking, and the other half is tired and scared. Basically, I mean, it just sounds like it just sounds like being real tired with life. The people he's not happy with the people around him, and that could be extrapolated to just about any level. Specifically, he speaks of the community, but he also ends up talking about maybe more than that. It says half of us are faking and the other half is tired. Could be a an observation of not just his community, which again could be his small town, it could be his his county, could be his entire country, who knows what level he's talking on there. I mean, even before that, he says we're tangled in each other's ruined affairs. That could be talking about humanity as a whole, rather than just kind of the community idea that he sticks with. So, yeah, it just sounds like he is disillusioned with humanity on some level, whether it's a closeness of community or a larger idea globally. So, yeah, kind of just disillusionment there, I think is a good word. A little bit of disdain as well. But the other side, the left side that's whispering, says, please believe in labor and hope and joy. Because like a little boy, I have destroyed hope and joy. So, right there, that's interesting. Believe in something that I have destroyed. And lately I dream about angels and Molotovs, but nightly they fist me wrists like tender trucks. I don't like that last bit. Really makes me uncomfortable. Because I mean, it definitely sounds non consensual, which could be the idea of dreaming about angels with Molotovs, people who seemingly should be held in higher regards. People, I mean, angels, right? Angels are beautiful creatures who bring us word of an all powerful God, right? That's sort of the angel's job. Angels with Molotovs, though, would be these perfect creatures that have weapons of pain and suffering. And yeah, I mean, it ties right into that. It's interesting, though, that he says that he is a little boy that destroyed hope and joy, when it sounds like actually the other, that hope and joy has been ruined for him. But also, like, what is the age that this is happening? I don't know, like this whole left side story thing is just like super uncomfortable. I don't know what's going on here. And being paired with this other idea about the community being sick and blind makes me think that they know about this sexual abuse that's happening to this person on the left, and maybe they brought it to light and the community doesn't want to do anything about it, and like maybe these two stories are a bit intertwined, two perspectives of the same transgression. And then at the very end it says, and these hands could have moved mountains. These hands could have moved mountains. um I mean, just, I don't know. Not what I got from the music at all, but I think some of the emotions I felt would pertain to this idea here. I just interpreted the emotions in a different manner because I didn't have this context, and I kind of wish I still didn't. Man. So yeah, this is a heavy track. Unless I'm missing some metaphor, I think it's fairly clear. They're very concise in what they spoke of, and it seems to be very surface level read of what's going on here. And I think elements of confusion and discomfort, uncomfortability, and moments of fleeting joy or levity against that darkness. I mean, that could tie into this on both sides, right? The whole idea of hope and joy. Yeah, I don't know. One of those songs, though, that I wish I had just left it be at the musical analysis and not dove into the lyrics, because that's a heavy track. This is where you guys come in, though. Let me know what's up, what your thoughts are, if you have any ideas, hypotheses, theories about what's going on here, if you have any information from the group. Also, another interesting thing back at the beginning, I pointed out that the topic page has a different name for this group than the record label page. And on this AZ lyrics page, it has a different name. It calls them A Silver Mount Zion. Has an A in front of it, implying that there might be more. So that's 3 names for the same group I've seen, which is not the first time, but definitely a rare case. Although I don't know if we've done 3 before. I know Ocean and Ocean Collective, they got 2. And I know the story behind that one at least. Yeah, I'm kind of interested here. What their real name is. And I don't know. Alright. That's where you guys come in though. Hit me up with your comments. Let me know what's going on in your mind, how you interpreted this. If you have any insight into it, let me know. Above the comment section, there's a description box, and in there is a link for Linktree. It takes you to this place right here. You can join the Patreon and vote on future themes and songs. You can join the Discord community and chat with me. You can follow me on Twitter, pick up some merch. I mean, just a bunch of stuff. Go ahead and check it out. Special selections are in there as well. Above that, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all 3 of those. Alright, we have one more video today. It is a Swans reaction. It came out 17 minutes ago. It is a 25-minute epic from Swans. If that's your jam, go ahead and check that out. If it's not, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. As usual, we'll be looking at more from Colors Week as well as another special selection. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.